Now, Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki remained silent on the troubling deaths of 2 protesters during Thursday's anti-finance bill demonstrations, as well as the recent abductions of vocal youth activists participating in the demos. Instead, Kindiki has issued a stern warning to those planning to protest the controversial finance bill on Tuesday, cautioning them against marching towards protected areas. He emphasized that any form of disorder would be met with zero tolerance. NTV's Zainab Ismail starts us off.
As the anti-finance bill protesters gear up for another round of protests on Tuesday, Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki has outlined strict parameters he says must be adhered to by all protesters. These parameters include, but not limited to, informing the police of the routes they will take in what the CS said was for the purposes of providing escort, informing the police of the timings of their activities and stopping the activities at sunset or 6:30 p.m. or whichever is earlier. Kindiki also issued a stern warning to those considering a march to State House or attempting to forcibly enter Parliament buildings and other government buildings.
They must adhere to the laws of Kenya, including the Protected Areas Act that limits access to certain critical infrastructure for national security reasons. And the police will guide them in which areas they cannot access by operation of the law on the protection of critical infrastructure.
The CS further dared protesters against interfering with any forms of transport, either road, rail, sea or air.
Non-protesters and other members of the public who hold a contrary view to that of protesters are bound by the same limitations, and they must exercise their right to disagree, if at all, in the same manner, in the same circumstances.
While affirming the right to protest is constitutionally protected, Kindiki emphasized that this right must not infringe upon the freedoms of the general public who are not participating in the demonstrations.
The national security organs of our country shall remain neutral, apolitical, but firm in enforcing the law of our country, and no form of lawlessness is going to be entertained whatsoever. We have seen people pretending to be protesters, damaging road infrastructure and other amenities built by the taxes and the sweat of the people of Kenya. I dare you to try that.
Well, this statement from the Interior Minister comes in the midst of growing concerns over the recent abductions of activists opposing the finance bill and the tragic deaths of 2 protesters. 29-year-old Rex Masai was fatally shot by police, while 21-year-old Evans Kiratu, who lost his life after being struck by a tear gas canister during the demos. The abduction of Shadrach Kiprono, also known as Shad Khalif, whose whereabouts remain unknown, Dr. Austin Omondi, and social media influencer Billy Simani, also known as Crazy Nairobian, who were later released from police custody under unclear circumstances, a huge concern on the freedom of those who demonstrate. The youth-led protests that have caught the government by surprise in a widely shared poster outline their agenda, including undertaking a 7-day protest in solidarity with the 2 slain protesters and pushing the government to heed their plight and scrap the finance bill. Zainab Ismail, NTV.